What's the first step a business should take when planning to scale from $1 million to $10 million?
There's two categories of entrepreneurs, right? It's getting to that first million. I think when you get to that first million, it's like, hey, I can do this. Your confidence increases. You've learned some skills along that path, because that's not an easy path, that first 1 million, especially if you've got no business experience and it's your first startup. You got to figure a whole bunch of stuff out, like a lot, right? So that's like I think from 0 to $1 million is like doing your 3-year business degree or MBA, right? That's where you learn the foundational principles of business and how it actually really works, not all the bullshit that everyone tells you see on TikTok, because none of that's real. The second thing is if you want to scale from 1 million to 10 million, why is it 10 million? And by the way, scaling from 1 million to 10 million is a very definitive number. And if you wanted to scale to 10 million and your goal was 10 million, you will not get that. 100% that'll not happen. Because the number's too low to achieve that number. Because I think when you get to 10, my take on it, 0 to 1 is pretty hard. But you do that when you're young and resilient, right? So you can really go pretty hard against that number, and you have to have quite an open mindset to learn a whole bunch of things and be the dumbest person in the room. When you get to 10, I think it just gets easier. Because I think you have a little bit of security wrapped around the founder and the company and the senior people within it, right? Getting to 10. And that's what the experts say, and I truly believe that, right? I think that's probably what the number is. And then as you get bigger than that, you get a little bit more security, and you create diversification in terms of revenue. Because you have enough revenue then to diversify, and that's where the scaling comes from. So scaling to 1 to 10, I don't know is the right terminology. I think you grow to 10, you don't scale to 10. So growing and scaling for me are two different things. Growing a business is growing a business. You're increasing revenue year on year over a period of time to get to X. X gives you X amount of cash flow to divest or invest back into the business for scalability. So my thing is, if there's entrepreneurs listening who want to get from 1 to 10, my first question is, why is it 10? Second thing is, if you want to get to 10, you should make it 16 or 17, and then you may get to 10. Because as I said in that 10X principle app, is that if you're thinking about 10, you're probably going to get to 6.5. Because your decisions are at 10 million. And no one ever hits 100% of their budget, especially if you're just in that first, startup phase of a company, because you just don't know enough yet. Your market share is too small, and there's still a lot of ground to cover. So if you want to get to 10, make it 16.5 and go hard for 10. Go hard for 16.5, sorry, and you may hit 10. But again, that's growth, not scale. It's organic growth, not scale, because you don't have any revenue to scale yet. So I think those are two different categories.
How do you ensure cash flow and financial management align with rapid growth?
Two things, actually 3 things. The first thing would be reporting. Second thing would be business plan, goals, and the third thing would be EBIT. Those would be my 3 key categories in that sort of vertical, right? It's like, okay, so if you want good cash flow, you want good financial management and alignment with your growth strategy. I'm going to call it growth strategy instead of scalability or scale strategy. You got to report on the right metrics. If you got the wrong metrics, man, God, it's so painful because you can't make any good quality informed decisions that are accurate. And if you're making decisions based on bad data, the decisions are normally bad. So focus on getting good reporting. Something I haven't been very good at in my career. But what happens is when you build a business, you engage SaaS platforms and software, and people have to run that software, deploy that software into your business, set the reporting up. Now, if the people that do that don't get it right, well, you have some problems. So you have to vet it in those first stages. If I was to do it all over again, I remember when we set up HubSpot. I think we spent $250,000 just to set HubSpot. Actually, it cost $500,000. That's right, I did, when I costed it out. And in 12 months, we didn't have it up and running properly. We couldn't get the right reporting. And then I had to can the project after 12 months and spend $500,000 on it. So it was a bad decision for me. And we knew that HubSpot could deliver the goods, but I didn't have the right person to deploy the project. So it came down to recruitment. So if you want to get good reporting to make good decisions to grow a business from 1 to 10 million, get good fucking reporting in the business. And to do that, you need expertise to be able to deploy that who have experience. You know, if you wanted to, like I was just speaking to the marketing guys on the phone, right? If you want to get to $1 to $10 million, you have to find a marketing agency who scale businesses more than once from $1 to $10 million. Like, it's just a logical way to make decisions. And most people don't do that. Most people go, I'll get the cheapest agency I can, and I want to get to $10 million. Yeah, but if they've never done that, like, they are not going to do it for you. So that's a bad decision. So reporting, get people who are experienced, deploy that into the business. You got to have a time horizon for it. You got to have a budget for it. You know what I mean? You can't spend it out of sales, quarterly sales cash flow. You should allocate budgets to projects before you launch the project, or at least have a capacity of percentage, which would be a third at a minimum. So the project's 100,000, you know, you need at least, you know, 30 grand before you commit to the project and recruit the right people. Business planning, you got to write a business plan for a project internally, externally, and for the company overall to get from 1 to 10. Now, what are you going to do? Because there's a mix of a whole bunch of different markets, actions, activities, focuses, staff, product market fit, product market allocation. Like, there's all these things going on, right? So, you know, I just go, what's the lowest hanging fruit? Right, that's one category. The other thing is, what's our biggest margin on that product? So that would be a sort of a focus, and I execute against those two things. So run fast at the low hanging fruit, break a few things, generate some revenue, and then invest that revenue to our highest profitable products and start there. I think that's what businesses should do every time. You know, the unfortunate thing is people who start a cafe or a small business like that, you know, you can only sell X amount of coffees, right, with an X margin, because the market dictates if you were charging more than $6 for a, you know. So we just launched some training courses that we're launching in January 2025, by the way. You should go and check it out on the new Business Beats website, businessbeats.com. Is if we launch the product, and before we've released it, you know, we're doing pre-sales, and some guy says, hey, here's my credit card, just buy the product. I know that guy, I know it's going to be good. Like, fuck. If you talk about product market fit, that is the ultimate goal. When they know a product is in pre-sales and they don't even need to see the pitch, they don't need to see a sample, and they don't need to see the product because you've built such a good reputation, they go, fuck, just here's my credit card details. Whatever Lawrence is selling, I'll buy it. Like, that is where the focus should be in startup, where people are trying to build dumb shit, cut too many corners, operate at 25%, not 75%, and launch products to the market that are no good. Hey, I've done it more than once. But, you know, that's why I'm talking about it, because I've done it and I learned my lesson about that, and I'm probably never going to do that again. So, you know, you just got to make sure that you release a really, really good product. And then EBITDA, right? So just focus on, if you want to sell a business, there's going to be a multiple of EBITDA. And if you don't know what EBITDA is, you should go Google that, because any business loan, financial procurement of your company, including investment, VC or private, or if you want to sell your company, is going to be based on that number, on that metric. But if there was another global pandemic and you had to close the offices for 4 weeks, you have standing charges you still have to pay. So what's the standing charge? Lease? Wages? Those costs don't go away, right? You have to continue to, insurances, software, like, you have to continue to pay those. And then you have operational expenses, which really you only incur when you're operating a business, right? So, so you need to think about and break those down into two categories, because I sort of align EBIT to those types of categories, right? So you just want to make sure that you're not overextending and start up from 1 to 10. You know, if today's narrative was about how do you take a business from 1 million to 10 million, good financial management is part of that. That's what EBITDA means for me. So if you don't know what it is, go and check it out. So reporting, business planning and goals, focusing on product market fit, and EBIT or EBITDA.
How important is having the right team, and how do you find the right people for growth?
And wait for them to build the robots and then go and lease the robots. You wouldn't buy the robots, you'd lease them because you can depreciate them. That was a joke. I watched an hour worth of robotics manufacturing last night to sort of understand what the future looks like in terms of labor, right? And how will they deploy and what industries that will deploy. One thing I learned is that trades and services, like, robots are not going to be doing that job soon. No one has mapped how to run a plumbing pipe from a tap to a drain yet. No one has mapped on how to construct a house using robots or robotics. Parts of it, yeah, 3D printing, yeah, I get that, but you still have to run the plumbing and the electrical work. They haven't mapped that yet. So there's still all these jobs in the market that won't change for many years, the next 10 or 15, 20 years. Oh God, that was a big pivot, Lawrence. I'm now talking about robotics when you asked me a question about staff and finding the right team. Anyway, I think that's part and parcel of it, right? I think robotics, I think technology, exponential technologies will be part of culture and part of building a team. So I'm going to pivot and lean into that a little bit because I don't think people are thinking about it. I think, are people fearful they'll lose their jobs? Oh, probably. I think some people are. In some industries, yes, and some industries, no. When it comes to office workers, they are probably not. Someone needs to caretake the technology until the technology is at a point where it can be self-sustainable and work independently. Can't do that yet. ChatGPT still has hallucinations. Gemini still has hallucinations. So, and that's just large language models. Jesus, imagine when you get a couple of robots walking around the office killing people. Can you cut that out? Consider technology as part of your cultural deck moving forward. Just even if it's a small percentage of that, talk about it. Plant some seeds with the humans and try and figure out what that looks like. So is it important? Absolutely. Is the right term important? Absolutely. We all know that. If you don't think that, well, you got rocks in your head or cookies or some other type of material because you need good quality people and the right team.
I think the question is about building a team. What do you think about international hires and how companies, maybe in Australia, should pivot towards hiring foreign talent from the States, Canada, like other countries?
If I had a company in Australia, you test the market to see what type of talent acquisition there is in the market, right? Like, can you acquire the talent that you need? My rule of thumb is if it's, I'm not too sure, it's a no. So if you're getting candidates coming through and your gut's saying I'm not too sure, it's a no, then you might need to pivot, right? But you have to do a catchment over a certain amount of time. The ads have got to be good. Especially for a young startup, you got to write good quality ads to get good quality people, right? And if you're constantly, I've noticed the market in 2024 changed dramatically and it became positive after such a candidate poor market during and after COVID-19, right? It just was. You couldn't find any good quality candidates. What happened 3.5 to 4 years after that is the quality got better. People were staying longer term. They weren't pivoting around and jumping around so much. So markets have changed a lot, and I think employment markets go up and down all the time, and they're heavily influenced by what's happening in the national part, right, of that market. Maybe not the global. I know that one was global. Maybe it's just the national market. So if that was the case, I'd pivot. I'd try another state, try another city in the country in which you reside, and then you would sort of build out from there. But you've got to start at your home base first and then work out. Everyone thinks just go to Silicon Valley. Look, sure, do that. But now you have to find people who would move their families and move, say if you're in Australia, like we are, who'd relocate their families. There's a cost to that, sure, so you have to be sure you make the right decision. So you have to recruit on a couple of things, right? Technical abilities, experience, culture. So if I needed to take a company from 1 to 10 million, that's the subject of this app today, and I needed a marketing person, and I couldn't find them in Brisbane, I'd go to Melbourne and Sydney, because I know they're not going to be anywhere else. If I can't find them there, I'm going to do my research and pivot and go offshore. So you need a talent acquisition manager or an agency who would work who would liaise with an immigration agent. Or you have recruitment agencies on the ground in those sectors, but you need to find out where the skill set is. So if it's Python coding, well, they're probably not in Brisbane. They're not here. So running an ad here would be quite dumb. So there's a couple of ways to look at it. You've just got to apply yourself using intelligence, right? And just do a good analysis of skill set. Where are they around the planet? The world's become a very small place, man. The world has become a very small place. It's not as big as it used to be in terms of reach, right? Where on your handset, you could find a report on where you would find Python coders. And it would probably say, just build an algorithm.
What systems or processes need to be put in place to support scaling of a company?
Yeah, super critical question. By the way, people miss this. I think everything is about process and systems, right? All about that. Otherwise, your business, you're sort of, wandering randomly through the forest, about to walk off the edge of a cliff, because you've got no safety net around the company. Because then you allow your staff to do whatever they want, and on the basis of the skill set and intelligence and experience of that team member or staff member, not great. So critically important. Let's tick that box. Where do you start? By the way, you can go and buy policies, systems, and procedures of companies who have built them for many types of industries and businesses before. Like, man, if you don't know anything about systems, policies, and processes, go and buy a manual, which will just give it to you. And then what you do is you just tweak it to suit your needs, or seek experience about bring somebody in to look at your workflows. Like, how do you sell a product? How long does it take? What systems do you need? How many people are you going to have? How does customer service plug into that? So that's workflow. So if you can write your workflow down, you can quite easily establish what your policies are. But a professional should do that. Like, if there are entrepreneurs watching this today and you haven't done that, please don't do that. Like, that would not be smart for you. Try and find the funds and invest the money in a professional, because again, same as reporting, business planning, financial forecasting, EBIT, processes and policies and systems are your foundation. They are your concrete slab. They are foundational principles that you have to get right, and remove the ego. Founders have a bit of an ego. I can do that, it's really easy. Sure, if you can, no harm, no foul, you should do that. But if you don't, you should get someone in to do it for you, because I think they're critically important to get right for scaling. Because when you scale, everything will break. Your marketing will break first. That's what normally happens. The marketing falls over first. When you go to scale and your marketing guy doesn't have the experience, your marketing falls over. What happens is you see dilution and lead conversion. I've seen it happen many times, and I've done it a couple of times myself. So what happens is that you have the same team doing exactly the same thing, and then the conversion rate starts to go down because the market's changing, and the market's the market. So it can change, and it will change. That's its desire. And the marketing guy normally doesn't catch up to that, and then all of a sudden sales start going down. That's where you normally start to see that happen. And then what happens is, if it's not that, sales go up, your operational functions fall over. And then how you recognize that is when you get those really, threatening emails and text messages from your customers. That's a sign. That's a sign something's not working. Because if you're selling a product and you're selling it to a customer and they're giving you good money for it, you have a fiduciary obligation to deliver a product to a customer the way that you said you would. Hey, better than you said you would, right? Otherwise, you're just going to get complaints. So there's a couple of ways it happens. You see it in sales normally first. Second, you see it in operations, and operations start to shake because your systems, policies that underpin that service are broken. So critically important to get that right.
What are the biggest mistakes businesses make when trying to scale?
Founders are good at a couple of things. They're risk takers. Right? That's just in their nature, in our nature, to take risks, which is great. So, you have to have a CEO to mitigate that and keep you grounded and stop you from breaking down too many walls and killing people. And the other thing is we're pretty good at sales. I just know a lot of founders that used to be sales guys. So if you're not in tech and you're working in real estate, education, all those sorts of markets, even retail, the founder's normally a sales guy who's a risk taker. That's just how it normally starts. If you're in technology, they're normally an engineer of some sort, right, who were in the function of building things for somebody else. They learned some skills, and now they want to go out on their own. So there's two types, right? So, the guy who can sell stuff can generate revenue immediately. The guy who can build stuff can't sell anything. These two should get together, and that's what normally happens. So normally a tech founder will find a salesperson to come on as a co-founder, and a sales guy who's a founder should find a co-founder who's a tech person.
Can you tell me another big mistake that businesses make when they're trying to scale?
A big mistake that I see a lot from, my personal experience is, especially with founders, I think, we're engineered a certain way, so we see things a certain way, is that when we enter a market in 2022, we still think the market's doing the same thing in 2024. There's rapid exponential change in markets right now, financial markets, transport, logistics, construction, blue collar, all trades and services, all these things are happening. So it's naive and unintelligent to think that the decisions you're making in 2022 need to be the same in 2024 and 2025. That's what I think. So I think there's some ego at play in terms of that. And I think, we all sort of think, I started this company, I know what I'm doing, and I know what the market's doing. Well, unless you're reading the right feasibility reporting and analysis reporting, you don't know. And when sales start to go down, the adage that a founder normally says in a startup business is, it's okay, it'll go back up again without any foundation. Yeah, but what does that mean? What do you mean it's going to go back up? When is it going to go back up? How long is it going to take? What's it going to cost us? So those are not very tangible principles of building a successful business or scaling a business from 1 to 10. I see that a lot in the market. Now, you should have the capacity to be able to walk the market, but you'll have to walk and talk the market eventually. So you have to ensure that you're making good quality decisions. Like, I'm very reactive. Like, when something is broken or I see something not working, I react really quickly. I think that's a bit of a superpower. Where most people, and there's probably a balance to this, I don't know what it is, but most people go, let's just let it run another month or another quarter. I'm like, fuck that. Why would I do that? Let's just attack it right now. And especially if it's attached to revenue, for me, that's sort of how I normally see it. If it's something that's operational, well, that's okay, and it doesn't influence paying people's wages, well, then I don't have a problem with it. But like, if there was a huge dent in the market, something happened, I would react to it and move pretty quickly. So, I think people make those sorts of mistakes. Product market fit mistakes are always pretty common. Financial management mistakes are always pretty common. We forecasted this, we landed here. It pulls down, it deploys a negative culture into a sales and marketing team because they didn't hit their target because the management's getting the target wrong every quarter. Those are quite common mistakes. But they don't hit you where it hurts. Financially is where it hurts, right? Like, so, you're in business to make money. Let's be real, people. If you're in it to, have a good time, or fucking, go and work at a theme park. Because business is not necessarily a good time. I think when you get to a point it is, but not at the start. So that's sort of some of the, those are the easy go-to things that come to my mind that I've experienced and that I see most young founders experiencing.
What role does technology and automation play in achieving this level of growth?
I was starting a business in 2025, and I was a young entrepreneur, and it could be a service business, and could be an online product, whatever it may be. And I'm planning and thinking about what that business looks like. I think if you exclude the implementation of artificial intelligence technologies, that's not a great decision. I just think there's so much influence in the market with artificial intelligence technologies now that it has to be inclusive of as common as, where are we going to work from? What sort of laptop should I buy? It should be, what AI are we considering? 100%. And I don't care if you're a cafe or a corner store. There is lift and savings to be had and sales to be made by using exponential technologies. So I think everyone should be considering it. Even before you write the business plan or start the business, you should map it out what it looks like for you. Because I just think it's critically important. Like, if you look at the company, say in 1992, right? If you look at, that's how old I am, 1992. If you look at tech companies in Silicon Valley, right? Now, look at the amount of billion-dollar companies that we have in 2024 that came out of the same region. You know why? Because they all operated in the same ethos, with the same mindset, which was definitely a growth mindset towards technology. So there's two types of mindsets, right? You should read Cal Dweck's book called Mindset, funny enough. A fixed mindset and a growth mindset. The thing that I learned about studying some of those founders in that environment is that the environment and the ethos in which they started those businesses were congruent from all the other founders, because they called it a tech bubble, right? And it was a tech bubble. I think we're in it again. And I think there's going to be founders in 2025, 26, 27, 28, all the way through to 2030, who are going to make a lot of money and build successful businesses in any country around the planet, who are in that bubble. And I think if you're out of that bubble, you need to get inside that bubble. I think it's that important right now. And I've said to you before, I think this is the internet all over again, but I think it's better. I just do, because the internet gave us access and made us mildly more productive, but took a long time to get there. This will not only give us access, it'll just make the whole world a better place, and it'll eliminate everything we don't want to do. And it's not going to happen in 10 or 15 or 20 years. It's going to be so much faster than that. It's happening right now, right? Like, when was it? November 22, ChatGPT hit the market, right? Like, you could go and use it. And we're at end of 2024. And look at what it can do. How many versions are being released? How many other companies have invested in it? I think I read there was over $400 billion invested in AI technology companies in the last 24 months. Like, these are not dumb investors. These are some of the, like Sequoia is one of the biggest investors in AI technology right now. Google. Like, so, you've just got to look at which direction is the wind blowing and move in that direction. So I hope that answers the question. I don't want to go into too much detail because I talk about it all the time, but if you're not focused on technology, that's not healthy for business growth or scalability.
How do you stay focused on your core offering while exploring new opportunities?
If you're in a startup business and you're trying to get to 1 to 10 million, your product market fit has to be on point. That's the first thing, so tick that box. The second thing is, if you want to diversify and move into another market like consumer to business, that's a strategy. So it's the formulation of a strategy, because what it does, it helps you contextualize the opportunities, the challenges and the obstacles, and it helps you really think about and unpack the market that you're looking to apply yourself to. And if you don't do that and you just do it, you'll probably lose, which I've also done many times. And making mistakes and learning that from people like me is good for people watching, because they don't have to do the same thing, right? Because I can tell you, without strategy, execution it becomes very hard, because you're executing against something that isn't planned. So hitting the target, there is no target. So I think you have to write a strategy for that. So if you're looking to get out of product market fit and looking to launch a new product, a new service, or attack a new market, you have to write a strategy. So what is a strategy? A strategy is a document that you'll write down in compilation with more than just one person. I think it should be vetted with other people who are specialists in your team, or even external, and get external help to do that, establish the rules and the foundations and the results of what you're trying to achieve. That's a strategy, right? How long is it going to take to get there? What do we need to spend? What's our target demographic? Where do we start? Where do we expect to be in quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3, and quarter 4? And then holding everyone accountable to those results. That's strategy, right? But I find that execution is probably the most important thing against the strategy, because you have to execute against it. So then it comes down to skill set, talent, people, timing. People underestimate the power of timing. I think it can be a great thing, but it requires really intelligent people and really good market knowledge to be able to deploy timing really well. Like, you just have to be such across what's happening in your market. It's crazy. And that means you need to be reading every single report. You need to understand who the players are, who the main players are, what they're doing, what government policies are happening, when are elections occurring, when a state government's re-electing, and what are the chances that those premiers or senators are changing, and all that sort of stuff, right? Like, you just have to be across all of that stuff.
What mindset shifts are required for a leader to scale their business to $10 million?
Entrepreneurs have a growth mindset. We know that. That's also their problem, right? But my point was, your mindset from 0 to 1 million is a particular style and type of mindset, right? You probably learned some skills. So you're going to apply yourself differently to your business to get to 3 million. When you get to 3 million, you'll find that your mindset and your application and how you think will change. Normally becomes more intelligent, becomes focused on, less of bull in a china shop, right? And you become a little bit more careful when you get to 3 to 5 and 7. And then you sort of want to turn on the speed again when you get to 7 and 10. That's what I think. That's been my experience. So the mindset thing shifts and changes, and it pitches and catches across that period, right? It just does. Like it's a really hard thing to pinpoint. But my thing is that stay focused on learning the information you need to learn at the time in which you need to learn it. Yep. I think if you're chasing too many unicorns, trying to build a business and try different markets and new products, all you're going to do is start chasing unicorns, and revenue will start to decrease because you're losing focus on results. That's normally what happens with young entrepreneurs. The older guys, they're normally a little bit more grounded. Why? Because they have a mortgage and a family to support. And there's something in that, right? When you think about mindset, there's different mindsets for younger generational entrepreneurs than there is for older generational entrepreneurs. And the older guy that has a family and a car lease and a mortgage and a mother who's moving into retirement, who's got some problems and she needs medical care and attention, well, his mindset and his application to his business is different from the guy who's 22 living in his parents' fancy house on the beach. He can run fast and break things and it doesn't matter. So I think it just depends, right? And I think, but the foundational principles of entrepreneurship and the mindset that's attached to that, I think has always been pretty great. It's always been pretty positive. That running, I think it's Zuck's, Facebook's, one of their early principles was run fast and break things, which I still love.
Can you share a practical example or key lesson you learned while scaling your own business?
I'm a little bit of a Navy SEAL. I don't have a lot of emotions. People find me quite aggressive, and I can be aggressive, and I'm still that way. And normally aggressive people are like that, and driven people are like that because they're trying to get from one thing to another. And there was a reason why that created itself, right? So, but my biggest lesson was, just because I'm like that, it doesn't mean to say that I should expose everyone to it. And I find it very difficult not to, because it's just organically who I am. So I learned some lessons around, people think I'm still aggressive now, I'll be honest with you. Man, I am nothing like I used to be, right? But when I grew up, I played sports and I was aggressive in sports, and I was just that type of person. And I come from a military family, maybe that's part of it, but I learned that psychology is critically important to get right. So if you put all the money aside and all the investments and all the strategy and all the business planning, there's one thing that is consistent through all of that, and that's you. So it should be part of planning. I think you should be very considered, and I think you should strategize as you grow your business from $1 to $10 million. That's a game changer for people's lives, right? For their families, their children, people around them, their friends, and for themselves. So you need to figure out through that journey how you look after yourself, after your mindset, right? After your psychology. Because with a strong psychology, you can achieve it. With a weak one, you won't. And I know I'm just going to put it out there. I think the world's quite weak right now, right? And I think there's a good opportunity for strong founders and strong executive teams to really push forward, increase revenues and get market share in a market that's relatively weak. Not in all markets, executives who work in the financial market have normally always been aggressive, right? That's just how they are. But there are other markets where there's opportunity that I see. They're a little bit weaker in their marketing strategies and their aggression towards advertising. If you have no talent, if you have no energy, it's like I said, don't hire the $1 million guy when you're trying to get to 10 million. How do you procure in the right way strength and vitality to a growing culture and team as you go from because at 1 million, you've got fucking 4 staff. When you get to 10 million, you'll have 40 staff. So there's all these things that change, right? But the one thing that's constant is a founder. So founders should be very, very conscious of that and think about how they want to manage themselves. And then tweak accordingly would be my thing. A little bit different answer to probably what most people want to hear, but I think I think we all need to get that right. But, you know, be strong. That's what I say. Don't forget to get a whole bunch of B-roll content as well, and you can like stick that at the end of episodes. Because there's probably going to be some of that today, especially with this guy sitting behind me. Taylor's probably going to get up, and then Colin's going to walk in and out 15 times.
Yeah.
In 30 minutes, I'm going to have some cereal because I'm pretty hungry. Unsuccessful people do not need cereal. It's proven. There are many reports about it. In fact, it's Deloitte's leading saleable report in 2024.